We have Jen up in our bell tower with an incredible Easter bonnet, ready to ring our bell.
Happy Easter and welcome to springtime. I want to welcome you to our beloved sanctuary, as well as our digital sanctuary on Zoom. My name is Tom Keitel, and I am the chairperson of Music and Worship. Many thanks to Meredith St. John, who will be our camera person today. I'm also serving today as your Zoom usher. Those of you who are here in person, we ask that you keep your mask on at all times while indoors, though worship leaders may take off their masks at the mic when distanced from others. Feel free to use the QR codes at either entrance to pull up the order of service on your phone, or take one of the large print copies. People of all ages are welcome to move about the sanctuary as they need to, or to make themselves comfortable in the cozy zone in front of the first pew. Children's programming for elementary school-aged kids will begin today after our time for all ages. Our childcare provider, Shannon, is available to be with nursery-age children in the narthex in the back, or accompany them to our nursery in the parish hall. As we begin our service today, we acknowledge that our church was built on ancestral, unceded land of the Massachusetts people. We acknowledge the devastating legacy of settler colonialism and the continuing harm done to Indigenous groups in our community and beyond. May our commitment to justice, equity, and compassion call us to take meaningful restorative action to honor and protect the land and all her people. We invite all of you to bring your perspectives, your beliefs and doubts, and all that is unique and wondrous about you to our service. In the spirit of love, all are welcome here. If you are new to Theodore Parker Church or visiting today, we'd love to stay in touch. You're invited to fill out a connection card, which will give you an opportunity to sign up for our weekly updates and help us welcome you. The link to the connection card will be in the chat, as well as our contact information. Those joining us here in the sanctuary are encouraged to fill out the contact card you'll find in your pews within the bright yellow pamphlet. This Easter morning, we are delighted to feature the TPC House Band under the direction of Michael Johnson, including Robin Colgrove, Marcy Feldman, Brian Cartwright, Eric Swanson, Jane Panera, and Peter Stein. We welcome back our guest drummer, Henry Godfrey. Thank you all for the gift of music. As we begin to offer a moment for those joining us remotely to greet those who are joining us in person. So AV folks, could you please put our sanctuary screen on gallery view so we can see our off-site congregation? Please go ahead, and the off-site people wave to people in the church and vice versa. We hope that each of you will find some comfort to carry with you over the week and some challenge for your thoughts. As always, we wish for each of you health, well-being, and a sense of peace. As our pianist Yakiko Takaki brings us into worship with Blue in Green by Evans, we bid you welcome.
Thank you, beautiful Yukiko. Good morning. My name is Reverend Joanna Lubkin. I'm the interim minister here at Theodore Parker Church. If today is your first time here with us, you've come on a very special Sunday. Today is the fourth day of Passover. We celebrate the return of springtime and the Easter holiday today. And it is the Sunday after our ministerial search committee has announced our candidate for our next settled minister. Beloveds, you have a candidate. That is exciting. Our ministerial search team has been hard at work for nearly 2 years, and boy, have they picked someone really special. You'll hear more about Reverend Heather Kincannon toward the end of the service, but I just want to say from my heart, I am so thrilled for you. I've known Heather since 2009. She's a dear colleague, a dear friend. She's wise, funny, playful, creative, collaborative, and I hope you have a wonderful time getting to know her. So it's an exciting day to be talking about rebirth and new chapters as this congregation is embarking on yours. So that's exciting. With that, I share these words from Jennifer McLaughlin to bring us into worship. As the first hint of green begins to peek through the barren ground, as that little sprig grows into a healthy stem, as that stem grows into a stalk that forms a bud, as that bud slowly opens with each new day to form a yellow daffodil. Let us be like that first hint of green, renewed by the sun's warm rays and ready to emerge with a new energy, ready to face the day. With that, we sing our opening hymn, All Creatures of the Earth and Sky. It's number 203 in your gray hymnal if you want the sheet music, though the lyrics will be up on the screen. Those of you who were maybe raised in a Christian tradition may know this as All Creatures of Our God and King. Its text was adapted from St. Francis of Assisi, which he wrote in 1225, near the end of his life. The tune comes from a German Easter hymn, which dates back to at least the 17th century. Let's sing now in celebration of the sacredness of all life. I invite you to rise in body, rise in spirit, or raise your voices as we sing together. Verses 1, 2, and 3.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Beautiful. Maybe he's seated. And each week, we light our flaming chalice, the symbol of Unitarian Universalism, with words of shared covenant, shared commitment. We say them together first in English and then in their Spanish translation, which we say in honor of our sister community in Plazuelas, El Salvador. Today, we'll be led in our English words by Alison Gottlieb and their Spanish translation by Brian Cartwright. And Meredith will be putting up some words for us to read along with in just a moment. Thank you to Meredith, doing 6 things at once. Thank you.
Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its prayer. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
El amor es el espíritu de esta iglesia y el servicio es nuestra oración. Esta es nuestra gran promesa, vivir juntos en paz, buscar la verdad con amor y ayudarnos los unos a los otros.
Thank you. And I welcome up our lifespan religious educator, Rose Gologly, to tell us some about the Easter story for those of us who are less familiar.
Thank you. Good morning. It's so good to be here today. So as Joe said, I'm going to be talking a little bit about the Easter story and how a lot of different parts of this holiday connect. And then after I tell the story, I'm going to invite any kids here today. We have a lot of new friends here, so I want to explain this extra. If there are any kids here today who want to join me, where I'm going to be leading a group of kids through those doors into our parish hall, where we have something called Children's Chapel. So we'll be spending some extra time together talking more about Easter and also decorating some eggs with flowers we found outside. So you're welcome. If you're a kid and you want to come with me, you can. Or if you want to stay here, that's also okay. Okay, now to talk about Easter. So I have to be honest with you all. I've always been a little bit confused about how to understand and approach Easter. As a Unitarian Universalist with Christian heritage, I grew up celebrating in a way that I imagine is familiar to many of you, maybe what you did at home this morning. I had an Easter basket, and I had decorated eggs and stories of a magical bunny. My family would come to church, this UU church right here, and we would sing songs like we've already started to do this morning about the earth reawakening and the magic of spring. It wasn't until I was quite a bit older that I realized that Jesus is also a part of this holiday. Yeah, you laugh, but I think if you ask other people raised UU, you might hear the same thing. We don't always talk about that part, and it's really quite a big part for a lot of people around the world, maybe most people who celebrate Easter, he's really the central part of it. So now, as a UU religious educator, even though I often feel complicated about Jesus, I don't consider myself a Christian personally, I always try to teach about why he's such an important part of this holiday. And make those connections between his story and the eggs and the bunnies. So here it is. Easter is a holiday that comes to us from the Christian tradition. And it celebrates an important part of the story of Jesus Christ, a man who lived a long time ago and whose story is really important to Christians. In that tradition, the story goes that the people ruling the place where Jesus lived didn't like him very much. He was a teacher and had all these people following him, spreading his message, and they didn't like him. They didn't like his message. So they decided to kill him so that he couldn't keep on spreading his message. He died on a day that is now named and honored as Good Friday, this past Friday. And then the story goes, 3 days later, on the day we now celebrate as Easter, his followers found his tomb was empty. He had risen from the dead, resurrected by his God. So Easter, in the Christian tradition, celebrates the miracle of that resurrection. So what does all this have to do with eggs and magical bunnies? At this time of year, we're of course also celebrating spring, the rebirth of the natural world that we see unfolding around us all the time right now. People, of course, have always celebrated spring, way before Jesus lived and died, and that in a religion based on his story became such an important part of our world. When the religion of Christianity was new and it was spreading across Europe specifically, the early church was happy to absorb pre-existing traditions that celebrated spring into this new holiday of Easter, because it's easier to convert people to a new religion if they also get to keep some parts of their old way of celebrating the sacred. So some parts of the tradition we have now are connected to Easter, but actually come from before Easter, and they all have just gotten mixed together. And some of our Easter traditions, culturally, also come out of how different cultures who are Christian, who have been Christian, took that faraway story about someone named Jesus who lived in a place they didn't know, how they made it their own. The death and resurrection of Jesus, though told as a literal story, also has become this symbolic narrative, a story about how death and rebirth are always connected in this endless cycle that we are seeing play out in front of us in the natural world. We understand stories better when we can connect them with our own place, with the specific way we see their narrative in our own lives. So our tradition of colorful, decorated eggs, for example, eggs being a tangible symbol of the promise of new life that we're always interacting with, this is, as I see it, an authentic way to connect a big idea and narrative of rebirth with our daily lives. So personally, I often do find it easier and sort of more authentic to me spiritually to talk about the reawakening of the earth. But this holiday is inseparable from Jesus' story in the history of Christianity. And I think it's our task as Unitarian Universalists, as modern people living in a culture so heavily influenced by Christianity, to work out our own way of relating to this history, to discern what kind of relationship with resurrection and rebirth of many kinds that we want to have. So with that, I invite the kids here today to join me for Children's Chapel, where we will be talking a bit more about Jesus and also decorating some eggs and reminding ourselves of the magic of renewed life in its many forms. Michael, can you lead us in our children's benediction? Or maybe you, Kiko, whoever is doing it today.
Both of us. For you shall go out in joy, for you shall go out in joy, and come back in peace, and come back in peace. Blessed be.
We really appreciate Rose sharing that reflection. As somebody raised Jewish in a Christian society, I was always very confused about the bunnies and the chocolate and the Easter. One year when I was 4, I was gifted a chocolate bunny, and I left it out for the, like you leave, nothing happened. So I still very much appreciate any time we get to learn more about the real history and context of our traditions. So with that, we're going to center our hearts with the springtime song, Rising Green, which was written by UU musician Carolyn McDade, the same person who wrote Spirit of Life. It expresses just this gorgeous oneness with nature, an experience of an interdependent web that helps us come alive again with the earth at springtime. So in that spirit of connection, let's sing Rising Green. If you want to follow along with sheet music, it's in the Teal hymnal, 1068. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit as we sing together, Rising Green. Beautiful. You may have a seat. I invite you to join me in a time of meditation or prayer. First in words, then in some quiet breaths, some silence together, then in a musical meditation. Our words today are from Reverend Samuel Trumpore. Eternal Spirit, we witness green growth threading out tiny tendrils, seeking support. Sprouting thin twigs reaching for the bright golden sun. Guiding new tubers seeking water in the dark, sandy soil. Be in and amongst us this Easter morning. We gather this morning to celebrate the triumph of life over death. The body can be killed, but the spirit cannot be quenched. Only yesterday had we given up all hope of the promise of the coming divine realm, and today we are renewed and inspired as we realize it is now already here. This morning, we remember that pain, suffering, and death are not ends, but can be scary underground passageways to a more abundant life. If we have the courage to face our fear and to crawl through, to be pushed and pulled by the mind-narrowing forces of lust, hate, and confusion. This morning, we renew our dedication to act from our love rather than our fear. We renew our faith in the inherent dignity and worth of all humanity including ourselves, which cannot be removed from anyone, and seek the nerve to face the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune which may come our way. In our moments of defeat and surrender, may we turn away from the paths of revenge, denial, and cynicism. May we remember the eternal truth spun into the web of life, that our wounds can become sacred, incarnational teaching of the wisdom embedded in the story of resurrection. Let us celebrate together this morning the one who never gives up, even in the darkest night of winter, our blue-green planet Earth, resurrected anew each spring. Let us be together in some moments of quiet meditation.
Generosity is a spiritual practice in our Unitarian Universalist congregations. We give to remind ourselves of how many gifts we have to offer. We give to remember that we are part of something bigger than ourselves. We give because we believe in music and sacred space. We give with gratitude for all that we have been given, and with the faith that together we have more than enough. Links to donate will be in the chat, or you can take a meditative moment to write out a check and send it to the church after the service. Ushers will be coming around the sanctuary to collect an offering from those in the pews who wish to donate something more tangible. Our Theodore Parker House Band will play La Maison de Grâce, a jig that comes to us from Quebec by the composer René Brun, as an offering to sustain this congregation of memory and hope will gratefully be received. Thank you.
3 cheers for our house band. Thank you so much.
Today's reading is Life Calls Us Out of the Tomb by Lisa Day. Rejecting literal readings of what we insist is only myth, we look to nature and religions close to the earth for alternative stories of this season, explaining away troublesome details, the empty tomb, Jesus' appearance to women and disciples. We tell a story that appeals to reason. Surprised, nevertheless, by the call of the season, waking an ancient longing in our hearts, we pause from our explanations to ponder the stirring. Unwilling to quiet the voice crying for rebirth, fresh starts, new life, we remember times we have been as if dead, yet still in our hearts beat, and we moved upon the earth. So set our disbelief aside, if only for a moment, on a day, in a season. Reason tells us life precedes death, and death itself is final. But our experience of second chances, cures, recovery, forgiveness, and reconciliation tell a different story. Even when life as we have known it is destroyed forever, and hope has abandoned us, somehow our life has held us and breathed us into new being. Life has called us to rise in fullness, triumphant, humble, grateful, insistent life, who will not let us go, who even in our most broken, most wretched, call us out of the tomb. Now the stories merge, myth and science, history and experience, and we whisper, Alleluia. Alleluia that you are. Alleluia that we are. Alleluia, everlasting. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Tom. What do Jesus and Mr. Rogers have in common? They both love their neighbors. I can't take credit for this opening line. Reverend Elizabeth Buki Saunter handed it to me when I told her about my sermon topic for today. It may seem like an unlikely pairing. Jesus of Nazareth, a religious reformer who lived 2,000 years ago and sparked a new religion, and Reverend Fred Rogers of Pittsburgh, a children's television host and Presbyterian minister who spoke slowly and played with puppets. But bear with me, both of them are on my mind this Easter morning. As Rose mentioned, Easter is a complicated holiday for Unitarian Universalists, theologically speaking, because historically, Unitarian theology proclaimed Jesus to be a moral exemplar and a great teacher, but not any more divine than any of the rest of humanity, and not one who was physically brought back to life 3 days after he was killed. You might say that Unitarians were more interested in Jesus's life than his death. So if Easter is the holiday in the Christian calendar that celebrates Jesus's resurrection, what's a UU to do with that? One thing we can do is see the resurrection story as the ultimate parable, a vivid metaphor for helping us understand deep truths about life. While many of us may not believe in bodily resurrection, I do imagine that most of us know the feeling of being brought back to life when we were in deep despair. When I was in seminary with Reverend Heather Kincannon, I went through a really rough bout of depression. Just truly struggling to stay afloat in my classwork, in my internship, in my relationships. sinking down beneath my sorrow's ground, in the words of that hymn, What Wondrous Love. I know I'm not alone in having had that experience too, whether it be from depression or grief. I know many of you can relate. Now, more than 10 years later, when I look back at that time, I think of one real turning point moment. I was at a service with the Sanctuary Boston, a worship community grounded in Unitarian Universalism that's been a fixture of my life since its first service in 2012. This was a day when I'd been having a particularly tough time with my mental health. I think I'd been crying a fair amount during our music rehearsal for the service. After the homily, which I don't remember, the house band started playing the opening notes of Hezekiah Walker's I Need You to Survive, and the tears in that service came immediately. If you don't know the song, it comes out of the Christian gospel tradition and has been lifted up as an anthem for the Black lives of Unitarian Universalist community. It was a song I already loved, and hearing my bandmates, Michael and Lelena, sing it just tugged at my heart. When we start crying, many of us just have this tendency to look away, to kind of turn inward, and I was no different. I was looking at the floor, at the ceiling, but after the first verse, I could tell that my friend Michaela was trying to get my attention. She was a classmate of mine in seminary, and she'd been witnessing how hard it had been for me. Since the seats were arranged in kind of a U shape, a horseshoe shape, she was directly across from me, across this circle. To this day, years later, I remember how Michaela locked eyes with me, and even as she sang along with everyone else in the congregation, I knew she was singing to me. The lyrics include these lines: "You are important to me. I need you to survive. I pray for you. You pray for me. I love you. I need you to survive. I won't harm you with words from my mouth. I love you. I need you to survive." In that moment, she was reminding me that I was needed, I was loved, and that there could be a way to survive and come back to life. I looked around and I saw that the whole room was full of people singing this to each other, saying that each person there was important and needed and loved. It remains one of the most powerful moments of worship I've experienced. And that's the power of our spiritual communities, right? Creating containers to hold all of our sorrows and our joys, our grief and our celebrations. Offering spaces where we can be cared for and accepted just as we are, with all of our fears and our gifts and our quirks. Congregations can be a place where people come together from across differences of age, race, class, gender, sexual orientation, and culture to form unlikely friendships, unlikely connections with one another. And we hope that these connections and friendships can help bring each other back to life when we are in need of renewal. Whether or not we have our own personal stories, specifically of this church community being there for us in our toughest moments, I think that each of us knows the experience of someone in our lives being supportive, encouraging, and caring during hard times. The idea of being brought back to life also reminds me of the phrase, loved into being. The first place I heard that phrase was from Mr. Rogers. I promised you it would come back around. He's one of my heroes. If you remember all the way back to our very first service together almost 2 years ago, I brought up a Mr. Rogers stained glass that still hangs in my office at home. He's one of my heroes. On his children's television show and in real life, Fred Rogers was a master at expressing love, care, and appreciation. His quiet, gentle presence seemed to bring out the best in those around him. There's this one special practice that Mr. Rogers invited people into. You can see recordings of it in commencement addresses and award acceptances, even from Tom Hanks as he played Mr. Rogers in the biopic that came out a few years ago, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. Mr. Rogers calls it an invisible gift, and it's a gift I'd like to offer us on this Easter morning. Will you join me in this practice now? In the words of Mr. Rogers, all of us have special loved ones who have loved us into being. Some of them may be here right now. Some may be far away. Some may even be in heaven. But wherever they are, if they've loved you and encouraged you and wanted what's best for you in life, then I believe that they are right here inside you. Would you just take, along with me, one silent minute to think about all of the people who have helped you become who you are, those who have cared about you and wanted what's best for you in life. One silent minute. I will watch the time. Whomever you have been thinking about, how pleased they must be to know the difference you feel they've made. Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Beloveds, on this Easter Sunday, may we see in the resurrection story our own stories of being brought back to life and an invitation to be a part of each other's renewals. May our spiritual community offer us the chance to be loved into being. May we give thanks for those who have brought us back to life when we were sinking down. May we reach out to one another to remind each other that we are important, we are needed, we are loved. May we send out love to those around us and feel it coming back to us. You are important to me. I need you to survive. So may it be, and amen. Our closing hymn today is the UU Easter hymn, Lo, the Earth Awakes Again. This hymn is another one adapted from a Christian hymn, Jesus Christ is Risen Today, which was initially written in the 14th century as a Bohemian Latin hymn called Surrexit Christus Hodie. If you want to sing in the original Latin, please do. The lyrics you'll find in our hymnal, though, which is number 61, are from the Unitarian minister Samuel Longfellow, who's the brother of the well-known poet. The lyrics that we sing shift the focus of celebration from Jesus' resurrection to the rebirth of the earth at springtime, as is wont to do in our UU hymnal, but it hangs on to the alleluias of praise and gratitude. So may we all. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit as we sing together, Lo, the Earth Awakes Again.
Lo,
You may have a seat. Again, thank you so much to our house band for enlivening our worship today. I share a few announcements and invitations, ways to stay connected to this Theodore Parker Church community. I believe we have a slide for that too, whenever Meredith is able. First, immediately following our postlude, we'll have a coffee hour over in our parish hall. It's just through these doors, either up the steps in the breezeway or around the driveway for a step-free route. All are welcome to join us either inside, or you can bring your snacks outside for some connection. We'll have a breakout room available online for those who would like to connect. Next week is going to be a really fun service. Our worship theme for the month of April is resistance. So we thought it would be fun to talk about joining the resistance, including the resistance in Star Wars. We're going to have fun with this. If you're not a Star Wars fan, it's okay. There'll be stuff for you too. But if you are, feel free to take this as your invitation to geek out in church, wear your Star Wars gear, have fun with us. It's also the kickoff of our Tickets to Safety campaign, raising funds for Renewal House, a shelter run by the UU Urban Ministry. So get excited for that. You can ask Susan Karen for more info. We hope you'll mark your calendars for a community conversation with Dr. Carolyn Crockett about helping to solve the race wealth gap with the UU Urban Ministry on Tuesday the 18th at 6 p.m. on Zoom. We hope you'll come. Our Music on Center's next concert is coming right up as well, Friday the 21st in the Parish Hall with Heather Pearson Trio. I believe we've got Carol Allen here, and there's some flyers out in the hallway, so you can ask her for more info. And the big news, our candidating week schedule has come out with our candidate. I just want to also thank, if members of our search team who are here would just give us a wave. They didn't want the focus on them here today, but too bad. Just thank you. So I believe they have a little bit of an introduction and announcement up here. It's one of you doing it, or am I doing it? Okay, James, great. We welcome up James Cross, and then we have one more slide after this, Meredith, with their specific stuff up here. It's coming, I'll let you know. I think, Meredith, is there one more slide after that? With a picture of Heather? No, if not, oh, there it is. Great. There she is. Okay, great.
Well, I hope all of you found a blossom in your email this past week that we've been waiting a very long time for. So I can't tell you how thrilled all of us on the committee were, but not as committee members, as members of the Theodore Parker Church community. This is a very, very exciting time, and we're just thrilled that we're at this place and to have made this announcement. I know you've all been very patient, so thank you for that. Just to paint a picture of what lies ahead the next 3 weeks. So you can see on there April 10, that would be tomorrow. You heard Reverend Joe speak about a schedule for candidating week, which is the last week of the month, April 23 through 30. Tomorrow you will receive an email communicating the schedule for that week, where there will be multiple opportunities daily for you to participate in events where you can get to meet Reverend Heather in person, talk with her, and be part of discussion groups. So please look for that email. We are asking that people pre-register. We have some logistics to coordinate about space and food and things like that, so we'd really like to know what the plans are for attending those. So I'm calling your attention to the pre-registration. And on Zoom, yes. Okay, so 23rd, 2 weeks from today, candidating week starts. Reverend Heather will give the service that day. As I said, those events will take place through the week, ending on the following Sunday with the ever-important congregational vote. And you know we've spoken about this before, but this is extremely important, so we want to make sure you hear this repeatedly through the next few weeks. This is a secret ballot, and members are the only ones who will cast votes, members of TPC. I wanted to call attention that this is not to be taken lightly. This is formal. We do need a quorum per the TPC bylaws of at least 30% of members to participate. So we're asking that all members please do. And last but not least, if you are able to be in the church in person, please plan to do so. This is going to be a very celebratory day, and we also want to ensure that the vote goes as smoothly as possible. There will be provisions for online voting if that is the only way you can participate. But again, we please encourage, if you can be here, please do. And again, thank you, everyone. Very celebratory week. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And I will say, if you're not already getting our emails, maybe you're just joining us and you want to kind of stay in the loop, you can email office@tparkerchurch.org or go to our website and just let us know, and we'll add you to the list so you can stay in the loop. Our closing words before our postlude, which is Seascape by Bill Evans, are from Reverend Alex Holt. For those who celebrate the resurrection of Jesus, may this day be another affirmation of divine love and promise. For all those who see the eternal story of new spring and life beginning anew, may you breathe deeply of a season of promise and hope. For all who are experiencing despair or hopelessness this Easter, may you find in the darkness or depression a doorway to light and warmth that offers you freedom. For all of us, together we can do what no one isolated person can do. Rolling the heavy stone aside reminds us that we are far more powerful than ever we could be on our own. Our offering of strong hands to help, our prayers made real. Let us begin again to love. Happy Easter. Amen.